Hey guys, welcome to Don't Adjust Your Sets. It's Tuesday. It's Watch Soup time. I know, we weren't here on Sunday. Now that's mainly my fault. It's just the weekend was crazy, and so many things were happening, and I couldn't come through on Sunday. So sorry, guys. And Clayton, I appreciate your patience. You're always a great team player,
Oh gosh, no problem.
and we'll just do it tonight.
Yeah,
That's all.
it's a cooler night for soup. It's a good night for soup. Cooler weather here, so
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Same here too.
soup
Oh man,
weather.
I mean the weather. Look, I know that there's been some crazy storms, and I know you had an issue a few days ago. But overall, I feel like August here in Jersey anyway, the weather's been very pleasant.
Yeah, it hasn't been July. The end of July was super, super hot here, and working
Mhm.
outside, I just like melting away. This
Yeah.
month's been, yeah, quite pleasant. Yeah, I was telling you right before we went on, we had a tornado touchdown in Rhode Island. Usually it's hurricane season,
Yeah.
but a tornado hit. We got some residual winds. We got like a crazy 20-second burst, and it knocked a tree down in our
Wow.
yard, and they were all removed yesterday, and it's quite naked. There's a
Yeah.
lot of sunshine, and then these all the heavy equipment kind of destroys the yard, so it's just a mess over here right now. But hey, no damage, nobody got hurt, nothing like that. So
Yeah.
could have
Most
been
most
much worse, right?
most important part. But
Right.
I bet you all that tree removal is eating at your watch money.
Yeah,
Fun,
yeah,
right?
yeah. There you go. And
Yeah.
just another thing, we just had to, yeah, because the tree went over it fell directly over the $7,000 freaking fence we had put in last month, but did not damage it.
Me-
Crazy enough.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Hey, what do you got on wrist tonight?
I'm wearing the old Air King.
That's a great watch, man. Beautiful.
I just came off like 17 days of the SJE 093, so figured it
Wow.
was time to yeah, I was gonna take it off, and then number one Watch Soup podcast fan Homer gifted me a mesh bracelet for it, which was very sweet of him. So
Yeah, yeah,
I put that on for a few days. Yeah, really, I like that look. So thank you,
yeah,
Homer.
yeah. Thank you, Homer, and hello, Homer, to you. Hey, I got my Black Bay 58 on the Uncle Seiko,
Nice.
um, in the fine 5 link bracelet, whatever they
You
call it.
enjoying having it back in the
Oh yeah,
collection?
absolutely. I wear this typically at night, and then but during the day I've been wearing that green GMT. I always forget the reference number, but that MM 200 case, green GMT. I was wearing that watch the other day. I took the kids to the park, and the sun. I mean, like that green dial, man, and that green. I think it's ceramic bezel insert. Man, it really pops. They did a really good job with that color
It's really
Seiko
a
there.
beautiful watch. The black and the green I got a chance to check out. They're pretty impressive.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So it makes me think. I know they discontinued the MM 300s, but I was opining for the blue dial one, but now I'm thinking the green dial one will be very very interesting. If it's anything like what I have right now, definitely. I mean, like I like green dials now. I'm a green dial guy. So
Have you ever tried the Marine Master 300? Have you ever owned one?
I never owned one. I've tried them on.
Yeah.
On like I'd get it. I'd put a rubber strap on it. I love the look, the thickness, the how the dial seems crowded, right? Because it's like a big saturation diver, and it's just
Mhm.
kind of the very Doxa-like in that aspect, right? With a smaller crowded dial. I like that. With the bracelet, I mean, it's heavy, right? So I'd go rubber strap on that and rock that. I love the look of that watch. I totally do.
It's one of my favorite looking watches. I've had 2. I had the SLA 023 and the blue Sagaiha 53, SLA 053.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one I've tried on as well. Yeah,
Yeah. I sold
uh,
them both with wrist fatigue, but
yeah,
they're just so nice looking.
they are very good.
Yeah.
Not an everyday kind of watch,
No.
but every once in a while for sure where you can bust it out. Hey, let's say hello to the chat very, very quickly, and then we'll jump in to the soup. So, hey, Peter C is here. Detroit Spartan, what's going on? Leland Phil, how you doing? Good to see you. Kevin S is here. Underachieving watch collector is here. Wilson. Mr. Time Hill is here. How are you? Mez9, Mezone1, good to see you. James Duffy is here. Um, Chaz from the Berg, Wayben, what's up? How you doing? Keith, how are you? Um, Uh, another Keith here. Is that same Keith? Okay, maybe it's the same Keith. Bruno, what's up? How you doing, Bruno? Good to see you here this evening. And scrolling down, looks like nobody new so far. Hey, Bobby Greendown. Gotta love it, right? Gotta love it. Okay, hey, let's jump right into the soup, and we're
Oh
gonna go
boy.
with Chrono 24. Best Rolex, worst complication, best chronograph, worst handset. This is the one you pick, Clayton. Uh, Tell us about this one.
I thought this one might be fun, just kind of interactive to
Oh yeah,
play. Last week we were, Anthony Ferrer heavy, which not everyone's into, including me necessarily. So I thought this week we could get everybody involved and have a little fun with this. So this is their game, Plus or Minus, on the Chrono 24 YouTube channel.
hmm
Thomas, who's the host of that, he had Balaj on, who's from Fratello. He's on the Fratello podcast.
yep,
It's weird when you only hear voices, because to me, I always thought Balaj was an older guy, and then to see him on video, it's kind of like, oh wow, he's probably younger than me, which is starting to be a trend, right? Like
yeah, yeah, absolutely,
people you think sound older are younger than you. So
yeah,
so they do a plus or minus game, and they go through a bunch of categories here. And I thought maybe you and I could take turns just kind of going off, and then we can go to the chat. So
yeah, for sure.
first one, worst complication. Thomas went with the date window. He said it ruins a lot of watches. It looks like an afterthought. And then he mentioned some examples. Balaj said power reserve, but power reserve on the back of the watch. He would rather see it like Grand
hmm
Seiko style and some other
hmm
watches, Seiko and their spring drive. He likes that disruption. I like that too. I don't want it on the back of my watch.
Yeah,
I would rather just have it there. I think it's kind of a cool thing. What is your least favorite complication, the worst complication?
I couldn't agree more with the power reserve in the back of the watch, in the case back. I absolutely look. I mean, the date window, I could live with it. I could live without it. Calendar, very very cool. Um, Moon phase, I like a big moon phase, but nothing is divisive or more aggravating to me than the power reserve on the back. Like, what is the point? The guy was making a great example. Like, what are you
Yeah,
supposed to look at behind the watch? But
yeah,
like you want it on the dial side. I love that look. A lot of people, I've heard people complain about the Grand Seiko. The Snowflake is a beautiful watch, except for that power reserve ruins it. The location, the way it looks, I love it. I actually think it's
right.
actually really really cool. I love the power reserve in the front. It makes perfect sense. You balance it out with maybe another complication like a small second or whatever. It is very very cool. The back of the case, it doesn't make sense. Never did. Never
No,
did.
I think like did Grand Seiko like bow to um, people who were, yelling to get it on the back? Because I don't know why else they would do it. It's such a part of their design language, I think, at this point, that it just looks off. And yeah, I'm with you. I'm not going to take my watch off to, and a lot of us, it is cool to wind the movement with backwards sometimes with looking at the case back, but still our natural inclination is to wind with the dial facing us. So it's fun to see that power reserve go up
Absolutely.
when we're winding it, right? That's part of
Yeah.
the thrill. So yeah, I leave it on the front of the dial. The back is silly. Yeah.
What do you got? What's next?
So my least favorite
Oh,
complication is probably, I don't think it's the worst one. It's just the one I have no use for. A GMT watch. I don't maybe like a diver GMT is
yeah,
something
yeah,
I could get down. I like a dive bezel. So
mhm,
GMT 24-hour or 12-hour bezel. I just don't, it's personal preference. But probably the worst complication I think is a date window. I think a lot of times, like Thomas was saying, it's an afterthought,
yeah,
just slapped somewhere. I like when it's framed. A lot of them aren't framed,
yeah,
especially on, more affordable watches.
mm,
Um, but and I never reference it. Half the time I don't set it.
yeah,
Yeah, I just let's go no date for all watches. I like a
yeah,
balanced dial with in terms of date window, because
hmm
some are just like egregiously just
mm,
slapped on, I think. So, but that's mine. So we're in agreement with those guys.
yeah,
So the next one is best Rolex. Balaj chose the GMT, the 1675.
hmm
He loves the Pepsi colorway, and also he's talked about this in the podcast. Too, big Magnum PI fan. So
yeah,
that just he loves that. Thomas went with an Explorer One, a vintage and then a vintage Explorer 2. He likes the modern
Yeah.
Explorer 1, then the like McQueen vintage
Mhm.
Explorer 2. Yeah, I had a tough time with this. Do I go like Fantasyland, or I just went with the 4 that I've owned, and I think it's the Air King. It's like the quirkiest. It doesn't have a whole lot of baggage that like some of the other Rolex models have. I like that it has the Explorer DNA and then a whole bunch of like crazy uncle thrown in. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's mine. I love the Air King.
Yeah, and you're such a Air King guy too. Like, some people in the chat might be like, Air King, who picks that one? But
Yeah.
that's your signature Rolex pick. I agree. I mean, I knew you were gonna pick that one as soon as I saw this video, and you said, hey, we should have some fun playing along with it. I'm like, Clean's gonna pick. Oh, I should write these things down and just like show. You know, but
Proof, date it, time it.
yeah, yeah. But great watch. I have to go with the modern Dr. Pepper. That for me, what am I? Not that is root beer. Sorry, root beer. The
I was like,
Dr.
"What is
Pepper.
the Dr.
Dr.
Pepper?"
Pepper.
I was like, "Am I supposed to know what that is?"
Hey, hey, it's after 9 p.m., man. Anything goes. No, no, the modern root beer, right? I mean, I just love that combination of steel and that ever rose kind of gold, that rose gold look with that dial. Man, you know, people will say, "Oh, you got to go Pepsi or Batman when it comes to the GMTs," but for me, I may never own a root beer just because of the price point. I may not feel comfortable spending at that point,
Right.
but man, that's the watch that I always fantasize about when I get like my ultimate Rolex. I just love that one so much just because of the. I think with my age, I'm appreciating rose gold a little bit more.
I got to see one a few weeks ago when I was in Michigan. A friend of ours had brought his, and oh boy,
It's beauty.
it is beautiful. Yeah, it's like, do I? Because a GM, like I said earlier, GMT is not something like I'm typically going to buy. Just I have no need for it. If I change careers and I've talked to people overseas, then
Mm,
um, sure. But still, I don't know even so. But yeah, what a stunning watch.
yeah,
The first time I got to see one in person, and boy, yeah, it's a beauty.
it's beauty.
Next one is best micro brand. Thomas picked Ming. Yeah, I knew you were gonna like this. Thomas picked Ming because it
Mm,
has its own design
hmm.
language. A lot
Yeah,
of micro brands,
yeah,
including maybe the next one we'll mention here, are derivative a little bit.
yeah,
Ming is entirely its own thing. They can do a bunch of different styles of
yeah,
watches, and it's still a Ming, right?
yeah.
GMT, Moon Phase, you know what it is. Balaj, Mr. Balaj here picked Baltic.
Hmm.
He really, really likes what they're doing. We'll we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
What's your favorite micro brand?
And I'll stick with this, and I'm not really sure if they're considered a micro brand anymore or an independent. Who knows? Those lines are blurred. I'm still going to see Zelos. They have a very, very unique design style to them. Now, there's not many Zeloses that I would care to buy. Just stylistically, it's not for me. But I appreciate that they're not as derivative as some of the other micro brands. The Sky Raider is one of my favorite watches, micro brand watches of all time. It's their 6498 based pilot or Flieger type watch. I just love that watch so much. I owned one with a blue meteorite dial. The blue was just a little bit too dark for me. It almost looked black most of the time, so I had sold it. But I think I would love to add one of those watches back in a collection. And kudos to Zelos again for not being so derivative compared to all the other micro brands and independents, and really developing a really big following. And they have they're going to continue. That brand's going to continue make watches for the foreseeable future. I don't see them going away anytime soon. What about you, Clayton?
Yeah, I agree with you about Zelos. I don't know that I'll ever buy one again. Just had some like spotty QC stuff, but
Mm,
I 100%, they're making their story right now. Their story is kind of being written into, a brand that's not been around all that long to have this, rabid fan base that
hmm.
will almost attack you online if you say
Yeah.
anything negative about it. Or and the resale value, I mean, you go and sell on that Facebook group and they do they're
Hmm.
sort of the Rolex of micro brands. Many go over the list, and it's their strategy for how they lay out their releases, right? They kind
Yep.
of create FOMO, which is smart.
Hmm.
Leave the audience wanting more, which, and now I think maybe bots are getting in there with, it
Yeah.
takes
Yeah.
some of these sell out in like 20 seconds. It's
Right.
not even fair. I went with, after getting to check one out earlier this year, they sent a watch to Keith and I, Formex. I
Oh
was just
yeah.
really, really impressed with the quality, with the
Hmm.
innovation, the straps and the bracelets and that
Hmm.
ratcheting deployant uh,
Hmm.
clasp they have is
Yeah.
really impressive. I had the GMT. I would probably still buy one of their divers at some point.
Yeah.
I really just kind of like what they're doing. They seem like really stand-up guys too. I think even people that aren't into micro brands are checking out Formex.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they've come a long way. I think when we first saw them, they still had that industrial logo,
Yep.
which I actually kind of like. And
Yeah.
people, made jokes about spark plugs and
Yeah.
condoms or whatever it might be. But no, I think I just love what they're doing. I can't wait to
Yeah.
see what they're doing next because I think they're gonna have some wild stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, Zelos and Formex. That's awesome.
And look, honorable mention Christopher Ward. Now we're mentioned Christopher Ward with Formex and Zelos. We're talking about brands that maybe being graduated from a
Right.
micro brand towards this maybe independent. Like I don't, again, blurred lines and the definition here of what either one could be. But they have something in common. They've been around for a little while, right?
Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, Christopher Ward. I I respect what they're doing too. I've never been like super into them, so it's kind of hard for me. But the watches are. I've checked some watches out in person. They're really
Yeah, excellent,
fantastic. But
excellent
yeah,
quality.
yeah. Um, all right. So the next one is best watch for picking up chicks. Uh, Balaj said, like something like a crazy, like a Richard Mille
Yeah,
or, super blingy watch.
yeah,
Thomas said a 70s Piaget with the stone dial. Yeah, pick up a certain kind of lady with that. I
yeah.
actually asked my wife. She was sitting next to me when I watched this, and I said, say, you're on the market one day, the podcast hits it big and I trade you in for something a
Yeah.
little younger. Yeah, she's not
Right.
here right now, thank God. What do you if you were like at the bar and you see a guy in a watch, like would you notice the watch and like what would attract you? And she said, something that wore well on somebody and looked like it matched what they were wearing and like their
Mm,
personality. She said if something looked a little too big
yeah,
or maybe didn't match the outfit, she would just think he was borrowing it from his older brother or something.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's what she said. That's
yeah,
what she said.
yeah.
But no, I get my Moser gets the most
Oh yeah,
from men and women. Everyone's like, what is that? So I don't know.
yeah. I think that's an excellent pick. Clayton, that Moser. Yeah. I mean, I was. It took me a while to think this through. Like I think Piaget, right? I mean that like something. I think something more leaning towards feminine might attract women, right?
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, the other guy from Patel is like, I mean, like women don't really care, right?
Right.
Really don't care
Yeah.
what watches. I mean, I think it's like they look at the whole package as you're saying. I think the dress being dressed nicely is way more
Yeah.
important. So like anything like you wear that sort of kind of like goes with your outfit doesn't like you're not peacocking here, right? You're not gonna go and get something that's really like crazy looking on your wrist. That's not really gonna do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we have some ideas of what women like, and most of the time we're absolutely wrong.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, at least I am anyway. So something understated, or leaning towards feminine. I really like that Piaget pick, and I'd probably, I'm still on the fence. I'm still trying to come up with something right now here to think about it, but maybe just like a Cartier tank on a leather strap. Something just very small and nothing too out there.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, then continuing on here, best Cartier.
Mm,
Uh, Thomas said 80s or 90s Santos. Uh, Balash said a Ballon Bleu. Cartier is not really his thing. He's not really Cartier. Mine's Santos.
yeah,
I've owned a couple now. I just think in whatever variation you can find them, I think they're just badass looking watches. You can dress them up or you can dress them down. Like the one I
Mhm,
had a
mhm.
DLC bezel, a little more sporty. They wear way more sporty than they have any right to, I think. So yeah, I'm Santos all the way.
I I'm not going Santos, and I'm not going. What was the other gentleman? Was he his a tank as
Ballon
well?
blue.
But Bon Blue, that's right. Um, I look, the one I like is a discontinued model now, and that's the Roadster. I love the
Yeah,
Roadster for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know what is it about it, but there's something about it that I like. Uh, Runner up, the Cartier Drive. I like that watch. I think
yeah.
it's very, very elegant, and it
That'd be
looks
my
so great.
second choice.
And
There's a drive moon phase that, oh
oh
gosh, I
yeah,
love
yeah.
it.
I
Yeah,
know what you're talking about.
yeah,
I like that one too. Or and even the one with the Power Reserve even is just a good
yeah,
looking piece. But obviously the Santos and the other one, they're no slouches either. I mean, the Santos is a great watch too. So it's very the difference between one, two, and three are very very small for me, right?
yeah.
It's really really tight. But I Roadster for me is number one.
And then best brand logo. Balaj went with the Patek or the Calatrava cross, he called it.
Hmm.
Thomas went with the Vacheron Maltese cross. How about you? What's your favorite logo?
Man, I'm gonna I don't know if I'm gonna get flack on this one or not. Rolex. I love the crown. I like the crown. I think the crown. I know it's just a crown, right? Anybody can do a crown. I just love the Rolex crown.
I'm with Thomas Vacheron.
Yeah,
I think it looks so cool, and the
it,
way
it
they
does look cool.
incorporate it in the bracelet and
Yeah.
everything, like that just to me looks boss, as they say. And then worst handset. Thomas said the Tudor Snowflake, and then Balaj said sword hands, whatever watch they might be. I had a hard time with this. I don't know. I don't really, you know what I've been disliking a lot lately on certain dive watches. Um, and we were talking about this in a Discord group. Like, haven't seen many of these watches in person. Like the arrow hand on like the Go CQ, or just
Mm.
yeah, like arrow
Yep.
minute or hour hands when the other one isn't. Yeah, I don't know. It's not my favorite look. I know like the Planet Ocean does it too. It's not so egregious there, but unlike the CQ, I don't really like it. I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm not really like against any handset. Now, I don't like the snowflake hand on a like a chronograph because it's so big and blocky that it
Yeah.
block. And I actually use chronographs when I have them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know about that, but yeah, I don't really hate vehemently hate any handset. How about you?
Yeah. Agreed. There's not so much. Look, I used to hate the snowflake hands until I stopped hating them, and I actually love them now. I mean, of course, I had the Black 58. I used to hate the Lego block hands from Zen. Now I love those too. So I always like take a wait and see attitude with when it comes. I've learned that lesson. Like something like I don't like. I'll wait a few months and revisit that. But I gotta tell you, man. Um, I had a Hobring. What was it, the Irwin or the Felix? I forget, one of those. And I was really, really excited to get it. I thought a pretty good deal on eBay. And the baton or stick hands, it was just so boring and plain. It really, and look, most hovering designs are going to be very, very clean, right? Very, very basic. And so, that I should have expected that. But the hands, it was just like it was a deal breaker, and I ended up getting rid of the watch because I just found it extremely boring. So, if you're gonna have like a very clean dial with nothing much going on, and then you throw in some stick hands in there, man, that watch is not lasting
Right.
weeks or days or weeks in my collection. You know what I mean? So it's not that I hate baton or whatever stick hands as they call it. It's just how they're combined with everything else about the watch that could be a deal breaker for me.
And then best chronograph. Balaj went with he's a big speedy guy, so he went
Mhm.
with the speedy. And then Thomas went with the Zenith El Primero. How
Yeah,
about you?
yeah. I mean, those are in the top five, right? I mean, I would have to say I love the Navitimer. I love the Navitimer, specifically the Cosmonaut. I owned one for a little while. I got rid of it. But I love that watch. And yeah, Navitimers all day. I think, I want a Speedy. I want to get one. That's my immediate, want list. But the Navitimer is just my favorite. How about
Yeah,
you?
I'm not a huge chronograph guy either, but I think Navitimer also. I think like the one Jody has from Just One More Watch. He doesn't really wear it except for like his Stay of the. I love that watch. Like I wish
Mm,
he would wear that more
hmm
instead of what he does wear sometimes. But I think if I had to buy a chronograph today, right now, it would be the glass box Carrera from Tag with
Oh
the
yeah,
reverse panda with the date
yeah.
at 12.
That's a
I think,
beautiful.
I think,
I like
yeah,
that
I
watch.
saw it in person. It looks awesome. Like
Yeah.
it wears so great too. Great dimensions. Yeah. So if I had to buy one like tomorrow, I'd buy that.
Speaking of Tag, I love the Monaco. I
Yeah.
love I,
They
I
just
love the
wear
Monaco.
so poorly on me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've tried it on. They fit. It's perfect. It's
Yeah.
perfect. You know what I mean? So maybe one of these days. Maybe one of these days I'll add one of those. Hey, underachieving watch collector, Omega skeleton hands on a die watch, worst hands down.
Yeah. I might agree with that
I
actually.
like them. I like
Oh,
them.
you
I
like
like.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. James, not a fan of cathedral hands. I I think James, cathedral hands, depending on that also could be a deal breaker for me.
Yeah.
I think so. Um, Thomas, I really dislike the Christopher Ward hour. Hey, how do you feel about um and I don't know why this is reminding me of this, but on seconds hands, like the counterbalances, like with ball where you had the double R's railroad. Do you like that? Is that kind of like a deal breaker when there's something off-putting about? I mean, by the way, I like the RR on the ball. But could that be a deal breaker for you on the second hands on the counterbalance?
Yeah, like I don't really care for the Trident.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, the RR is okay. Yeah, preference would be none.
none.
I
Gotcha.
think, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I like the
Uh,
RR better than the Trident.
yeah. Bobby had a cup of coffee with that heartbreak. I did. I did. Gone in 60 seconds. It was
Yeah,
gone.
you did not have that very long.
Oh man, and I wanted to keep that. I just that the handset, man. It was a killer. El Primero, the king of chronographs. I know I skipped a whole lot of stuff going on in the chat, guys. But I'm just trying to catch up. Zin Navi is better than a Breitling. Okay. I mean, I've had that one too. That's a
Yeah,
beautiful
you
watch.
had that. Yeah,
Yeah. Um,
that is gorgeous.
Uh, Omega Skeleton Hands. Kevin S is triggered. Skeleton Hands. Chris J just got a PRX Chrono. Nice watch, good value, and got 20%. Good for you, man. I like those
Congrats.
Chronos. I like those PRX Chronos, man. I do. Um. Okay. Um. We're done with that video, right?
Yeah, yep.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to Jeffrey McMahon, watch one of Watch Soup favorites, content creators, Jeffrey McMahon, and not just by me, Clayton. Clayton's.
Oh, yeah. Yep, and he just made it on the new, TGV video, which I just
I
watched a
know.
little
I
while
saw
ago.
that too. I saw it. Chaz had suggested that we do that video, and that was it's just too long. It was just too long, and I just couldn't focus in because I
Well, the
think
first
there's.
5 minutes were the
I
dinosaur,
know.
party scene and
Yeah. Yeah.
cameo in the Meg too.
Yeah, but there was some stuff in that TGV video that I needed to think about and unpack, but it was just it
Yeah.
was just too much. Anyway, so let's talk about Jeffrey McMahon. I should probably stop buying watches. Now, this video was created on the heels of him having COVID the week prior before, and he had a lot of time to think, and he had a lot of time. Yeah, like he needs anything. The guy's always thinking, right? And so and he's also contemplating. He was thinking about his YouTube channel and 8 years of making videos, and he realized that he was at a crossroad with his collection, and also being at a crossroads at a collection on your with his collection. For him specifically, also means a crossroads with his channel and social media, and this voice inside his head was saying, and this growing voice actually has been saying, stop buying watches, stop buying watches. So he gave us 5 reasons why he should probably stop buying watches. And so let's go through the first one, and we'll go through all of them, and then I'll get your take on it. Number one, sick of looking for greener pastures. He's searching for greener pastures is like kryptonite on his current collection. He ends up not appreciating what he has because he's thinking about greener pastures. Number two, he's getting too old. He's 61 years old. He's going to be 62 soon, and he feels like it's a bad form to have a large watch collection. He's obsessed with mortality and having a lot of watches. Somehow he's wrapped that in there with his logic of obsessed with mortality and having too many watches, and a voice telling him inside, saying that you're 62. Have a small collection. Have a small collection. Um, Number three, he's not a public person. He's not an influencer. I mean, like, you're probably going to see him at Yogurtland with his daughters. He doesn't need to be wearing a Planet Ocean at Yogurtland, right? Um, it's absurd to own a $4,000 to $6,000 watch when he doesn't really occupy public spaces. It's not like he's like a doctor or an attorney who may want to have like a $4,000 to $6,000 watch or more. I know a couple of lawyers personally, and having a nice looking watch when they go to court is very important to them. It's actually, and it's something that blew my mind away. I was like, really? I mean, like, does it matter? It's like, yeah, actually, it really does. The way you present yourself, and that gets down to, all the way down to your watch.
Hmm.
Number four, if he's been looking a lot in this 4 to 6 K range of watches. This 4 to 6 range has been a common theme here actually in this whole video, and then he's at that point he's got a couple 2 to 3.5 K watches. He's got some of those, but at the 4 to 6 range, then he's looking to analyze the pleasure ratio versus the stress. So the pleasure derived from and stress ratio. Is it worth it? Does he become too worried about making sure that the watch is in good condition, doesn't want to get it banged up and whatnot? It's very, is there's too much pressure in this range for him to actually really, really enjoy that kind of caliber watch? And number five, if you don't buy watches, you won't be relevant. And maybe that's a good thing for him, not to be relevant. He cited a couple years ago, he was in a Seiko Facebook group, and he was taking pictures and he was getting accolades and whatnot, and he was feeding off that, right? He was part of this hive mentality, right? And maybe that being part of this hive mind is not a good thing. Maybe he needs to check out of it. Now, this is not going to probably stop him from buying watches. He admitted that in the beginning of the video, and then at the end of the video, he's going through a list of watches that he's interested in, right? But these are the things that are going through his mind. And Clayton, anything jump out at you? Anything you could identify with in this video?
Yeah, I think we're always looking for the next one, right? Which I guess could qualify as greener pastures. Even though the grass is always greener, sometimes not. We just want a new watch. So,
Yeah,
it's like, because I think sometimes the excitement when we finally get it on our wrist, it's like, okay, that's done now, because the excitement was finding a bargain or finding the right one, finding the right condition, going to the authorized dealer, the wait. And now, like, all of that is very exciting. And sometimes getting the watch, and even if we really like the watch, like, now it's just we're wearing it. So
yeah.
it's over. So now what? So even though it may not be a better watch, we're just always on to the next thing.
Hmm.
The other thing that I would push back with him is, I don't go anywhere. I don't do anything. I wear running clothes all the time. I barely put on a normal shirt and pants ever. So, like, and I still have nice watches. I do it for me because I want to wear them. If I want to wear a nice watch with my running clothes, I do it. I don't care.
Yeah.
I really, so yeah. I mean, that's a good enough reason for me. It's just I want it. So no one's looking anyway. So
Yeah,
I'm not going to buy a watch for, not buy a nice watch because I don't go anywhere and no one notices. Like we
yeah,
were saying earlier, nobody notices. And then yeah, the pleasure versus the distress of owning a luxury watch. Like, talked about how, scratches drive him crazy. And yeah, I think for his sanity, I think that's probably true. He probably shouldn't, like,
yeah,
because when he had that tutor, like, I know it was a real issue, like the polished sides. He hated that. So I know he's talked about the Planet Ocean, and I think he would still be relevant, like I think Sanjay and we've talked about before, because he would probably make a lot of content on that one watch, and like
yeah.
how stressed out he was about scratching it and all that. So I think that would be entertaining for us. But for him, I think it's probably healthier if he just stays away. He has some really nice Seikos right now. He's got like
Absolutely.
he's got some, SLA models, the 055 and the 51, and a Marine Master. I think he has a 023. So yeah, he's got a great Seiko collection
Yeah,
right now. So yeah, I would just push back on that. Just if you want nice watches, Jeff, don't worry about what anyone else thinks. But we all say these things to
yeah,
ourselves, and sometimes we admit them in person, so in
yeah.
public.
Neo says if you're 62, buy a two-tone fluted bezel day just and learn how to play backgammon. Game over. Ooh. Um, I've
Looks like he can
never.
still kick some butt though.
He does, right? I've never seen a guy so torn up over mid-tier sales. Oh man. Where where paddock to Yogurtland, Planet Ocean is for Red Lobster. Oh man. Uh, you should take a McMahon video from 2017 and confuse it for you could take a McMahon video from 2017 and confuse it for one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean absolutely. But I mean it's just but it doesn't lose anything. It doesn't lose any bite, right? I mean it's still as awesome. I think. I never heard of this guy. FYI, he can't be relevant if I've never heard of him. Anyways, oh, jeez. James Duffy, I wear watches to feel confident, and that confidence makes me more interesting than my watches. Okay.
Yeah, they're
Uh,
like, we've talked about before, it's like cosplay a little bit.
yeah,
We just kinda it's like it's the only thing we can really wear, most of the time that, maybe, expresses something inside of us that we don't with any other clothing we wear or anything like
yeah,
that. So yeah, just wear it for you.
yeah. He needs to get his in. Nilo says, absolutely right. I
Oh, yeah,
totally agree.
that would be
So look, I mean, there's I identify. Look, none of these reasons. I identify with a lot of things he's saying here. Just not the thesis that any of this is going to help me stop, or that I should probably stop buying watches. I don't feel that way. I think I'm in a point where I mean maybe I haven't bought many watches lately, and then slowed it down or plan on slowing it down. Doesn't mean I'm going to stop buying watches, but I do suffer from like looking at looking towards greener pastures, and it does take away from the in the moment enjoyment of what I do have. So I get that the getting old part and having less watching. I mean that's no. I mean I don't feel that way at
yeah, I don't
all.
that one, I don't feel that way.
I do feel though. Look, I mean, like I think, and maybe you can identify with this part, Clayton, I certainly do, is that there's times when I think about what am I doing here on YouTube, like what's going on here, like and like how do I do I really want to keep pursuing a YouTube channel, and if I do, like what does that mean, like do I have to bring in more watches to the collection? Do I have to borrow watch? And it is a lot of work, and just thinking about the direction of where I'm going, sometimes I'm like, F it all. Let me just like stop this nonsense, and I'm not nonsense, but stop this what I'm doing here, and just go back to like a private person, and just like you know to, like unplug for a while, right? Unplug for
Yeah.
a while. But I'm just I have too many friends here, and I'm addicted to the constant chat every day with my watch friends, that I can't just give that up. I can't quit you, Clayton and chat. I can't quit you guys. Um, and yeah, I mean, um, I think that's it. I think that's all I got to say about
The
this.
the relevancy thing is interesting because there probably is, and we've talked about this before, there probably is some pressure, or maybe there was at one time when you were doing more reviews to buy watches,
Yeah,
and then you probably always take a loss on because you sell them right after, so you
yeah,
can buy more watches for the channel.
yeah,
I know some other YouTubers that struggle with this, too.
yeah,
You know, we know a couple that, buy a lot for the channel, and then all of a sudden they wake up one day and they have
yeah.
200 watches or whatever it is. So yeah, there's and also it's I don't know if it's addicting, but it's fun to come on a live stream and like show everybody your new watch. Maybe you
Yeah.
didn't tell anyone beforehand. There's like a certain rush to that. And
There is a absolutely.
yeah,
There's
when
absolutely a
you
rush to
don't
that.
buy anything for a while, it's like, oh, I have nothing to make me interesting. I'm wearing the same watch again. So
Yeah.
yeah, we have to like not listen to those voices. 'Cause I think we probably all
Yeah.
have them. Um,
Thanks, Neo. Don't you don't have to buy watches. No, and that's where and Neo and Clayton. That's where the genius is. The content creators who don't review watches, who
yeah.
do watch talk, and that's a skill, man. That's thanks, Neo. I don't think I'm gonna leave. Don't worry about it. You know, I do have a lot of fun doing this. But that's where the real skill and talent. Somebody who has is very opinionated and can speak intelligently about watch topics, watch trends, new releases, and whatnot, and not have that physical watch in their hand, and get away with it in the sense that they're relevant. I mean, like, because like most of the time when I'm watching watch content, man, I want to see a watch and I want to hear about the watch. But if you can if you don't do that and you talk about other stuff and that loops me in, man, you got a success. I mean, that's a skill set that I don't have, and it's something that is brilliant, right? I mean, like somebody who can just loop me in like that and not have the actual physical watch and talk about watches,
Yeah.
and is good at it and makes me feel like this person knows what they're talking about. That's the real talent, in my opinion. You
That's
know.
why I like podcasts because a
Mhm.
lot of times it is like interesting subjects versus now there's some new release podcasts and stuff, but a lot of times, you know, they pick a style of watch or something in the hobby to talk about
Yeah.
around. And it's not because I think taking a break from YouTube helps with the constant need to buy something, right?
Yeah.
It's part of the problem maybe, or solution, depending on how you look at it. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think I sometimes have to take a break from YouTube just to take the edge off of like wanting everything I see.
Thanks, Neo. Again, you and Amin have an awesome crew of panelists and punters in the chat, and that's far more interesting than seeing someone unbox a watch. Neo, also check out Clayton's
Oh,
podcast.
thank you.
It's really, really awesome too. Link is in the description below. Thanks again, Neo. Hey, okay, let's move on to the final topic and video, and that's Britt Pearce, unpopular watch opinions, Rolex, Omega, Cartier, and more. Clayton, take it away.
Yeah, this is just the third one we picked since Sanjay couldn't make it on Sunday. So yeah, just she read some unpopular opinions. I thought we'd do it the same way we did
Mm.
the Chrono 24 thing,
Sure.
just bouncing off of each other. Sometimes it's better to pay over retail. That's the first hot take she read. She is adamantly against paying over retail. Sounds
Hmm.
like she's lucky enough to have a great
Hmm.
relation, or her and her husband have a great relationship with an authorized dealer. She doesn't have to worry about that. For many of us, buying from the gray market might be the only option sometimes. So we just
Hmm.
have to suck it up. I've done it before. I don't know that I do it again. If I see a watch that you know, I just can't get anymore, it's maybe discontinued and it's going a little more, and I really really want it, then I can't say I would never do it.
Yeah.
I'm not I don't wanna make a habit out of it, but I
Yeah.
can't say I would never would again,
Yeah.
and I have before, and I probably will again.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't think I've ever paid over retail for a watch, and like you, like that. I'm not opposed to ever doing it. Look, I mean, there might be some watches that are discontinued or recently discontinued that you can't get a hand on, your hands on, or there might be something like just an example. Let's say you are waiting for that Pepsi GMT or an Explorer 2, a new Explorer 2, and it might be a little while before you get it, and the prices have come down, and you find one that's maybe like $1,000 over MSRP. You can either pay the $1,000 now or wait like a year and a half, or whatever to get that. Now that if you want to pay the $1,000 now, I mean, and get that watch now because you really, really want it, I say go for it. I just say go for it. You know what I mean? If you really, really want it, and if you have the means, and you don't want to wait the year or 2 years or play any of the games, go for something like that. That I don't have a problem with.
Right.
Um, Sometimes now when we're talking about like a Pepsi, right? And you may have to pay 5, 6, 7, or whatever it is now over MSRP. For me, I wouldn't do that. Again, I'm not going to begrudge anybody to do that because I know getting one of those is very, very difficult. But for me, that's a decision I make monetarily. I just can't wrap my head around that. No
I'm
judgment.
interested to see with the Pepsi now because I've been seeing online rumors about there being some production issues with the
Oh,
bezel,
okay.
the blue and the red and the
Mhm.
paint and the ceramic.
Yeah.
Many people have been told by their ADs that they are not getting them. They're having a really hard time. So I'm interested to see what that does to the secondary market. Now is that and so one guy online said I got a Pepsi from them 2 years ago and I was still told that. So it's probably not, a lot of people were being like, well, it's probably just a tactic so we all stop asking about it.
Yeah.
But he said no, I got one 2 years ago and they still told me that. So
Yeah.
yeah, who knows what that's going to do. Maybe if you're thinking about getting one, maybe do it before they go bonkers. I don't know.
Yeah.
I never know with a Rolex. The next hot take, the Hublot Classic Fusion is awesome. Yeah, I don't have strong opinions either way on Hublot. I certainly don't hate them. Maybe not my like number one style of watch, but
Mhm.
I don't know, it's a okay looking watch. It's less audacious than many of their
Yeah.
models.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think it's a great looking watch. On
yeah,
rubber, I think it's just like a precious metal on rubber. I think it's beautiful. And now the price point, I mean, it can get expensive, right? And I don't know how much of a discount you're going to get for like a solid gold Classic Fusion on rubber. But I like them. I like them a lot. Yeah. No
yep.
complaints there.
Next one, Speedmaster over Daytona. She loves both, but she prefers the Daytona. Again, like these
Mm.
two they're both good watches. Neither of them really like do it for me. I don't know. I'm either one is fine. The Daytona's just never ever going to happen for me, so I'd probably just go Speedmaster for the pure fact that I can't probably can't ever get a Daytona without
Yeah.
overpaying by a lot.
Yeah. I think I would. I think I'd go Daytona, just because. And here's where my thought process gets really, really muddied. Just because I like it or not, I have to admit to myself, it's hard to get, and that's part of the attraction for me.
Right.
That if I get it, it's instant cash in my pocket. You know what I mean? So that I'm just being honest. That's where my mind going. Otherwise, uh, the Speedmaster is great. There's so many different speedies, right? There's like a
Yeah.
speedy for anybody. There's the Speedmaster Racing. There's the Speedmaster the Moon Watch, and then you have the different variations. You have the dark side of the moon, the gray side of the moon, and there's hundreds of options out there for Speedmasters at least. And so I think that's really cool about it. I
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
And you can
So
actually get one.
and you can actually get one.
Yeah.
Exactly. Most of
Yeah.
them, right?
Yeah. And even I bet you can get your hands on even one of the gold ones or like some of the
Yeah, I mean, the
yeah.
Snoopy's a little bit hard to get,
Yeah,
you
it's
know what I mean? Like,
Snoopy.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
but most of them at least 90% of them you can get.
The next hot take, the Speedy isn't all that. I've been talking with Kevin and a few other guys. Like it's not a watch that I want necessarily in my collection. I understand why it's an icon, but it doesn't just like scratch the itch that it
Mm,
does for many people. For me personally, I'm not saying it's a bad watch at all, but I think I maybe like listen to people who say everyone needs a Speedmaster, and that's maybe one of the reasons I got it. And
mhm.
I just doesn't really have a place in my collection, but it's still I wouldn't say it's not all that. It's just, not for me
So
maybe.
I think it's all that and a bag of chips.
Yeah.
If you asked me a year ago, I'd probably be like, it's not all that. But
Yeah.
now, like the last year, I've been obsessed with it, and I think, uh, um, setting aside the recent price increases, right?
Yeah. It's
Man,
rough.
that is a whole lot of watch for what you used to be able to get for it. Only even recently, right? And I know that
Mhm.
now it's getting up there in price and whatnot, but there's so many still available in the secondary market. They're always going to be available, and I think if you're patient, if you're willing to look maybe to a previous generation like the 1861 version or anything before that, um, I think and in regards to the Moon Watch anyway, specifically, I think you can get a really, really great watch in a very, very good condition for a really, really good price. And so, yeah, man, Speedies, they're all that.
Another hot take. AP is a one-trick pony. She said 3 of the 4 collections on their website are Royal Oaks. So 75% of
Mm,
what AP makes is the Royal Oak. She said, Patek Philippe, Aquanaut, all
mhm,
that stuff, Nautilus. They are not considered a one-trick pony, despite all of that success. So I tend to agree with her. It's odd that AP doesn't do like a whole lot of
yeah,
other stuff.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that's what I think of when I think of AP Royal Oak.
yeah, no, and I,
Yeah,
and I think that's a fair argument. Although I feel like they're trying to do a little bit more, especially with the 1159 and the different variations and how that particular model has evolved in the last couple years, for more options and more attractive options. So I think they're probably trying to get out of that shadow. But yeah, they're still to me a one trick pony. When I think AP, I think Royal Oak.
yeah, same. The next hot take: if you don't get allocated a Rolex in 6 to 18 months, you have zero shot of ever getting one. I don't think that's true. I know people that have waited like 2 years
Mm-hmm.
for. I know we have a friend who got a call out of the blue, which she had given up.
Yeah,
Yeah, for the Pepsi. Actually, she had given up all hope, and then randomly got the call.
yeah.
So yeah, I don't think just because you go past 18 months, you're completely dead in the water.
Yeah, I mean, I think look, if you maintain that relationship, if you check in every once in a while, I think you can stretch that timeline, right? I
Right.
mean, it doesn't you're not bound by, and then also look, there's some luck involved, and this geolocation, like some areas are probably of the country are probably easier to get than others, it seems. So there's a lot of other factors, but the key thing is not to give up.
Right. Right. Just keep at it.
Yeah.
Next hot take: Rolex and Omega are mid-tier luxury. Depends. I mean, I guess in the grand scheme of things, they are. There are
Hmm.
several brands ahead of both of them, but I don't know. Some people, Rolex is an ultimate achievement. Omega is an ultimate achievement. They work really hard. Like my neighbor chose an Omega Seamaster as his one like nice watch that he's ever gonna buy.
Hmm.
And that's like the ultimate achievement for him. So it's all relative. It's all subjective to your situation.
Yeah, yeah, I agreed. I think it's all relative in what you define as luxury, right? Now, for us watch nerds who probably know more about watches and brands than your typical civilian,
Yeah,
then I think it's a fair argument saying that they are mid-tier compared to some of this high horology, uber luxury brands. Yes. So, I mean,
yeah,
are they more luxurious than Patek? Are they more luxurious than Breguet? Are they more? No. Are they more luxurious than Seiko? Are they more luxurious than Longines? Yes. So they're right in the middle, right?
yeah.
So, but I
But
think for most of us, it's just like, whatever you define luxury is.
but Rolex has that reputation among non-watch people and just like pop culture as being like synonymous with
Yeah. Yeah.
wealth and success. So it's
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
funny when I tell people, and I'm sure you've told people too,
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, there are a lot of brands way more expensive and better made than Rolex. Like Rolex is sort of at the their base models anyway are
Yeah.
sort of down the tier in retail at least. Um Next hot take: there's nothing wrong with customization. She talked about the dial artist who puts like all those sprinkles on dials. I think
Mhm,
she showed like a Grand Seiko and a PRX.
mhm,
And then Artisan de Genève,
mhm,
Adam Levine most recently showed off one of his luminous
mhm.
style Daytonas. So, I haven't done a whole lot with customization modding. I'm not like opposed to it. I just haven't gone there for
Yeah.
whatever reason. Um, maybe oil fill, like I talked about this with Pete on the last podcast. We talked about vintage watches, and he said like that may be the only place he has left to go is like doing modding, because he kind of has everything he wants in his collection now. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'm not when I see modded Seikos and everything, they don't do all that much for me really.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like customization. I mean, like working with a watchmaker, right? To customize and build a watch with the watchmaker is a special thing, right? And but like taking a watch and then customizing afterwards, well, that's a little bit of a slippery slope, right? I mean, like you can definitely do that and whatever you like, but just be aware that if there's any moment in time that you want to maybe part ways with that watch, it may be a difficult thing to
right.
do, right?
Yep.
Even like the bare minimum customization with engraving like somebody's initials in the back
Yeah.
could affect resale if that's what you want to eventually do. If you
Yep.
keep that watch forever, then by all means do whatever you want, as long as it makes you happy. But there might be some pitfalls with that.
And a lot of times you see these mods listed for higher than you would think, just because they probably paid somebody to do
Hmm.
this modification for them. And in some cases, people, but still, you have to buy the supplies and the
Yeah.
parts and everything like that. So a lot of times I see these mods listed for higher than I would think they should go, but they're just trying to make some of their money back. So, and the last one, watch geeks don't put their money where their mouth is. Everybody talks about how great the Blancpain 50 Fathoms is, or the CQ is, and nobody buys them. I know, like Pete and I agree. We've talked about this. Like everybody talked about how the Oris Caliber 400 is so great. We want Oris to do
Nope.
this, and then you
Not
never
me.
really see any. Yeah, you didn't. You respect them. Uh, and yeah, you don't see many of these out there. They're available for major discounts now.
Mm,
The Oris like booted up the price too. You don't see, but
mhm,
everybody talks about how great it is. I see like that's always their choice, but then
mhm.
you don't really see too many online. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's probably true for us.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, like it is what it is. I mean, we're talking about watches. We can't own them all. We can't buy them all. I've
Right.
talked about how many times I've loved what Longines has done with its catalog now, like reviving a lot of older designs and whatnot, and how classically beautiful a lot of them are. The Zulu time, I love the Zulu time, but I mean, I haven't bought any of them yet, right?
Yep.
And you know what I mean. So it's just like you can't own them all. You can like them all, you just can't own them all, right? So like, all right, yeah, I can't put my money where my mouth is.
Yeah. They're just
Fine.
I talk too much and I don't have enough money to back it up.
Yeah, for you and me, Clayton. It's an occupational hazard that we
Right.
are as content
Yeah.
creators, right? So,
Right. That's it.
hey, yeah, let's see what the chat says. AP obviously once did much more, which is true. Then in the 1970s came along, and so did Genta, the RO. Just became more and more hyped as it went on. We turned AP into a one-trick pony. Um, Mid-tier luxury, but I would be content with either for life, for sure. Yeah,
Oh,
Rolex,
absolutely.
absolutely. Um, let's see here. Um, Pete has every Alpina. He has every dreams house. He
Right.
does. He does. uh, Oi, FF owner here. Money mouth.
There
Well,
you go.
hey, and Clayton as well. AZ Clayton has one now too. Yep. Um, it it's hard to pay double money for something that looks the same. Um, let's see here. I know I skipped a lot, guys. Bobby has, in a single incident, renamed the root beer. It is now the Dr. Pepper.
I think Wilson said, Mr. Pibb. Yeah.
Bobby's holding out on
Yeah.
the Mr. Pibb. All right, all right. You guys know exactly what you know I meant by that. Anyway, uh, Bobby, you could own one, but you could own one, Bobby. Okay, all right, maybe one day. One day I could. Hey, man, uh, great episode tonight,
Yeah,
Clayton.
we
I,
did
I
it.
think we did it, man. We did it. And what do you got coming up on the
I
podcast?
just had Pete on this week. We talked about vintage watches, sort of sparked by the whole Adam Levine Hodinkee thing. We didn't talk
Mm,
about that much at all. It just
right.
went off in another direction. And if all goes well, I'm hoping to have one Mr. Legs on this week. So
Yeah, well, let's not give it away too much, but yeah, okay. Well, the cat's out of the bag. But
yeah.
yeah, we'll be getting together on Thursday evening. Hopefully the kids go to bed a little bit early. They've been doing the camp this week, so maybe they tuck her out very soon, sooner than later, and we can get that going. Um, well, awesome, man. And look, link to Clayton's podcast channel is in the description below, as well as Sanjay, the engineer wannabe, who couldn't make it this evening, but hopefully he'll be back with us next Sunday, this upcoming Sunday, for another episode of Watch Soup. For Clayton, I'm Bobby Legs. You guys have a great night, and we'll see you on Sunday. Take care. Good
Have a
night.
good week, guys. Bye bye.